Hello, my name is Amanda, and this is the 11th episode of my podcast, Amanda Makes. This is a podcast where I share about what I've been knitting and what I've been reading, and a little bit about what I'm daydreaming about knitting and reading, and just generally a conversation that I like to have with my crafty community about the things that I like to do and make. I have been a little bit under the weather. We have been plugging along at breakneck speed. If you don't know, my husband's a professor and it's the end of the semester, so we have been totally slammed and just churning along, and yesterday I ended up so very unwell that I was in the not hospital, I was in the urgent care for 4 hours yesterday before I could get medicine. Julian was in and out of the office. He had to cancel one class to help me, and got me home, got me in bed. I'm so much better now. I'm drinking fluids, which I should have been doing to start with. And so I'm just trying to lay low today and not overdo it. And so I've gotten a rainy day, and I thought it was a perfect opportunity to share with you guys what I've been doing when I've been so busy. So thank you for coming and joining me today. Thank you for taking some downtime that you could do a million other things and spending it with me, and I hope that you enjoy it. Okay, let's start things off with what's on the needles. I've got 2 projects on the needles that I feel like are worth discussing. Excuse my reach. I don't remember if I shared with you last time that I had finished my very first ever sock. I think maybe I had just gotten to the toe decrease part, but hadn't gotten it cast off. This is online. The yarn is called Online Sock Wool. It's in the Jungle color collection, and its colorway is actually a number that I don't know off the top of my head, and I've long since lost the paper that goes with the ball. The ball's kind of disintegrating, you know, in that way that commercial center pull balls do, but I'm trying to keep that together. So in preparation for the podcast, I cast on my second sock, which had not really gotten me excited yet. But I'm glad I've gotten it done. You know, I'm over the hurdle of casting on, and I can just pick this up at any point when I need some no-thinking knitting to do. It's a very simple pattern. It's the Tracks pattern by Oz Knitter on Ravelry, and it's just got a simple knit one, purl one rib down the front and down the back to the ankle. So anyhow, in preparation for the podcast, I thought, oh gosh, I want to have that on the needles, my second sock on the needles to talk about. So I'll just cast that on real quick. So as soon as I sat down to do that, Tracy Clover, as she's known on Instagram, tagged me for what I'm doing now. So I said, I'm casting on this sock just for the satisfaction of being able to podcast without second sock shame. So then I got a really phenomenal response from Patty, who's known as Socks Therapist, S-O-X Therapist, and she says, there's never any shame in your hobby or passion. Stop. End of story. Dance the work in progress dance. So then I said, thank you. I know that in my heart, but I can't get it through my head. And she said, then cast on all the things as therapy. And I just really loved her commentary there, and it's so true. I get myself so beat up about my knitting progress, about all of my hobby progress, and I think a lot of us do that. We stress ourselves out and think, God, we take it too seriously. It's supposed to be something that's relaxing and enjoyable. And even just being sick yesterday and in bed, I kept saying to myself, oh, Amanda, this is prime time. You need to knit on something. You've got no excuse to not be making progress. Anyone who knits would love a day in bed to knit. And so I picked up my knitting, and on the shawl that I'm about to show you, and I really had a moment where I had to say to myself, I feel bad. I'm not enjoying this knitting because I feel bad. It's okay to put it aside because knitting is supposed to make me happy, and I'm going to do this when I feel happy. And so then I started Home Fires on Amazon Prime Video and watched 5 episodes of Home Fires, and that was just the medicine that I needed. So anyhow, a word of wisdom there. Don't take your knitting too seriously that you don't enjoy it, and there's no shame in your second sock. So the other project that I want to show you that's on the needles, I chatted a little bit about in my last podcast, and I really meant to get through this row so that I could show you a little better, but you'll get the picture. I have joined along with the folks at Knit, Read, Pray. There is Laura hosts the podcast Knit, Read, Pray, and it's Bible studies, books, and knitting projects. She also has a Ravelry group, and I stop in and chat with the girls at the Ravelry group there. And she's doing a prayer shawl knit along using soft sweaters, Silvia Bilvia elder tree shawl pattern. And if I had finished this row like I said I was going to, you would be able to see it in its entirety. But it's just a really beautiful lacy leaf pattern, and I love this pattern. It's the first time I've ever knit from a chart, and I've been intimidated by charts for a long time, and I've had no problem with this at all. It's just been a breeze, and at this point I've got the chart memorized, and so I am just trucking right along. And it's nice because it's not a vanilla pattern, but the chart is simple enough, and I guess because it's charted, so I have it in my mind, a picture in my mind instead of just words on the paper. It's been a lot easier for me to memorize, so I can just put this shawl in my bag and go and knit a row or two on it anywhere I stop along the way. I actually knitted a few rows in the Med Express yesterday. So I think that says a lot about a knitting project, that it's something you can do when you feel like doing nothing except screaming at the doctor. So that is a lovely group. I've loved getting to know those ladies over there at the Knit, Read, Pray group on Ravelry. Definitely look it up. I will link, because I didn't say this before, I will put links to all of this information on the post on my blog that goes along with this podcast episode. I will also post all of the show notes along with the episode in my Ravelry group, which is the Amanda Makes podcast group. So join me in one or both of those places. All of the links you'll find below this video. That is all I have on the needles. So I'm going to move right along to my acquisitions. The last podcast I said that I had gotten the side eye from Julian about the amount of yarn that's in my stash. So I said, I'm not going to buy yarn. And that was a big fat lie. Let me just tell you that. For starters, this prayer shawl is new yarn. I am knitting it for a friend of mine, and she is not in a season of her life where she can appreciate high maintenance luxury things. There is a time and a place for it, and now is not it for her. So I don't usually knit with cotton, but I grabbed this. This is grown in Virginia, milled in Virginia, sold in Virginia, Sestari cotton, and it is in the cornflower blue colorway, even though it's purple. I've liked it. I mean, it's cotton. I have a hard time knitting with cotton and not feeling like I'm just making a dish rag. But the pattern is so pretty, and it's coming right along, and the fact that it's cotton doesn't bother me a bit. The fact that it's cotton means that she can toss it in the washing machine if she has baby barf on it and keep it moving. In addition to this, I made some online purchases and some big box store purchases to fill gaps that I have in my gift giving yarn needs list. I purchased this, oh come on, I purchased this Cascade alpaca lace to make a shawl for my mother-in-law for her birthday. Her birthday's at the end of May. This is 50 grams. It's 437 yards, 50 grams, and I got it on Craftsy for $7 a hank. And you can't really see it unless you're looking at it. I don't expect you'll be able to see it. Sorry. Don't expect you'll be able to see it, but it comes across from a distance as kind of a dark turquoise color. When you look at it, I don't know if that's going to show. When you look at it in real life, you can see that it's really a heather between royal blue, cobalt blue, and a kind of aqua emeraldy green color. So it's really beautiful. My mother-in-law had told me that she was done with these shawls that keep you warm. That she wanted something that was all about the looks, that was, now I'm putting words into her mouth right now, but basically she said she wanted it to be very holy and very lacy and very dainty. So that's what's got me started. This is the yarn all balled up. That's what's got me started on this biophilia shawl that I've posted about on Instagram and I've got in my Ravelry projects. I think that I'm biting off more than I can chew. It is traditional Estonian lace. It has nups. It has stitches I've never heard of in my life, and it's done in lace weight yarn. I've got a month to do it. I really hate knitting on a deadline because it does add stress to me, but I'm going to try to discipline myself and make this happen. My husband was like, "Who are you kidding? You know you'll never get it done." And he is always very positive with my pursuits. So for him to say that indicates that I might have a track record of not making gift-giving deadlines. So let's hope for the best, that this becomes a phenomenally beautiful beaded shawl by May 27th. Next things next, I grabbed this Nature Spun. It's brown sheep Nature Spun. It is in sport weight. This is the yarn that is used by Alicia Paulson when she does all of her little Maggie Rabbit accessories, sweaters, accessories, Maggie Rabbit and her little dandelion dough and those sorts of things. I have told one of my friends that I will make her another Maggie Rabbit, and she requested that it be in this burnt orange Texas Longhorn colorway. So I hope I've not just misspoken. The Aggies, Texas A&M is burgundy, right? And University of Texas is orange. It's confusing because I went to the University of Tennessee and we were UT and we were orange, but University of Texas is a completely different kind of orange. Anyhow, I told her that I would make a Maggie Rabbit that was orange, burnt orange, University of Texas colored in her wardrobe. So I've got some really precious white and orange gingham for the dress, and this I purchased for the sweater. I had a bit of a revelation when I was shopping for this yarn. I got it on Craftsy, and I have been lusting over Jameson Shetland wool. I've been also looking at Melody blogs at Mandarin, however you say it if you're a beautiful French woman. She designed a beautiful shawl called the Selkie Shawl. It uses Shetland wool, or many people have used Shetland wool on that shawl, and I've lusted after it and lusted after it and lusted after it. And I am totally hung up on this British yarn revolution that's happening right now. And people in the UK are knitting with their local breeds, their Hebridean, their Jacob's sheep, all of these things. And I keep thinking, I'm so jealous of that. I want that. I want to be able to go to my local yarn shop and find a wool that has been produced in my country and grown by a local farmer, and I can make a sweater out of it, because that's how we do these things, right? That's how we're supposed to do these things, right? So I have looked at a boatload. I mean, with the Croft House hat, and I mean all of the Shetland Wool Week patterns that are phenomenal. And I know that those patterns are put out to boost the British yarn economy. But my problem is I'm not British. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to break my neck to go get 86 colors of Shetland wool when I just discovered, and this was the revelation, Brown Sheep has U.S. wool, made in the U.S., milled in the U.S., sold in the U.S., a million colors, that's actually really beautiful and very affordable. So on Craftsy, the Brown Sheep, I'm sorry, I'm going to Google it real quickly so I don't tell you wrong. The Brown Sheep wool, it sold out so fast I couldn't get it. I was still thinking about the color that I wanted the alpaca lace in, and this Brown Sheep fingering weight wool went so fast. So yeah, it never occurred to me to find, oh, I don't even think, yes, they do, okay. They have, so this is the Nature Spun in Sport. So Craftsy currently has Brown Sheep Nature Spun in fingering in 6 colors. The stone colorway is heathered brown and gray, and it is beautiful, just as beautiful as anything that Jameson offers. They also have it in very vibrant colors. There's this pink color I'm looking at right now. It's called Cherry Delight. This right here is the French Clay. There's a little bit lighter color called Sunburst Gold, Winter Blue. The list goes on and on and on. So my idea was to get the stone and the charcoal and the natural, and to do my own made in the USA, local to me, as in didn't have to go across an ocean to get here. Selkie Shawl. So that is further down the line. That's just a revelation I had in my yarn buying process that I wanted to share with you. That I get so caught up in what all of the fun people are doing with their shop local things that I realize that just because they're shopping local, it's not local to me. So, you know, the fact of the matter is I'm never going to find a local banana. Does that mean that I don't eat bananas? No, but does that mean that I'm going to choose a local strawberry over a Dominican Republic banana? Yes. So there you go. It's just a little bit of thought on my yarn buying with that Brown Sheep. That was the Craftsy yarn purchase, except for this Rowan Fine Art. I needed something to get me over the hump. I also bought some fabric that I'm not going to show you right now because I'm not actively working on that project. But I needed something to get me over the bump for the free shipping. Isn't that always how it goes? So I have looked at Rowan Fine Art for a long time. I have daydreamed about their colors. I am a particular sucker for the fact that their colors that they have in stock this go round are all named for birds, and it's been killing me for real. This is what I think is called the lapwing. Lapwing. Oh, did I mention that it was? I'm sorry. This just caught my eye again. Did I mention that that fingering yarn by Brown Sheep is $2.77 a ball? $2.77 a ball. So when you want to do color work, when you want to do the Shetland woolly cat, when you want to do some wild insane gloves, you can buy every color for $2.77 a ball, and it's 310 yards. Okay, I'm off of that. I'm going to look up this fine art. So I have looked at this Rowan over and over and over again. It is regular retail $29.95, and it, I think in my local yarn shop, is like $34, and so I've never purchased it. I would never put this on my feet for socks, and it has 437 yards, and I've gone back and forth about a shawl. I don't know, but never could justify purchasing it without a project in mind for it until I'm looking around Craftsy and I need something to bump me over the limit and for free shipping, the threshold for free shipping. And this Rowan Fine Art is sitting there looking at me for $10 a hank. So I had to get it. This colorway is called Lapwing. It's a charcoal gray. Well, it's kind of like an olive gray. Kind of a spruce green and then a dark teal. I will say to you, and I don't mean to be rude, but I will say to you this. It's a fingering weight yarn, and I'm very glad that I didn't pay $34 for it in my local yarn shop, because it says right here on the front, premium hand-painted sock yarn made with merino wool, kid mohair, and mulberry silk. And you don't realize until you flip it over that it's 25% plastic. Polyamide. Yeah, don't know how to say that. Polyamide. I'm going to go with it. So it's 45% wool, 20% mohair, 25% synthetic material, I will say, and 10% silk. So I kind of felt like it was a little bit of a ripoff. How much of a luxury yarn can it be when it's 1/4 synthetic material? All of that said, I think it'll make a lovely hat. I've been thinking about sockhead slouch hat. I know I tell you that every time that I'm going to make a sockhead slouch hat. I don't have the right needles to cast it on, or I would have done it. And I think that I could use a sockhead slouchy sockhead hat in every single color of the rainbow. But I want to make a hat for Julian before the weather turns cold again this fall. And this just might be it. If anyone deserves some Rowan Fine Art yarn in Lapwing, it's him. So that will probably become a hat further down the road. I only have one big box store purchase to share with you, and that is the ever popular Croy Sock Blue Rag, because I jumped on the bandwagon and I couldn't not buy it. My husband was like, "What on earth are you doing buying this yarn? You've got enough yarn." So it actually worked out really well because I had 2 coupons on my phone. You know how you can go in with the Joann's and get a 40% off an item that's not on sale, or a 50% off an item that's not on sale. And so I just scanned one of them, not thinking she would let me use both coupons. And I guess these were $6.50 or something to start with, maybe $7 to start with. And she let me use one 40% off coupon for the one and 50% off coupon for the other. So I'm fairly confident that this is the cheapest pair of socks known to man. And I'm really thrilled about this, but I am making myself save these for another day, another month, probably even another season. Good winter project. So just wanted to let you know I added that to my stash. Now, let's talk about all the yarn that I have that is my own. Okay, so I've had this little adventure that I have embarked upon, and I did not realize that I would get myself in so deep so quickly. I decided the last podcast to buy some undyed sock yarn, dye it, offer it for sale, and just see where it went. I had such a tremendous response with the red bud yarn that I do not have in my possession a hank of that yarn to even show you how it turned out. It is so beautiful, and I just want to say thanks for all the positive comments that I got on it. And if you want to see what it looks like, you can go on Instagram and look up the hashtag Amanda Makes Yarn. And I guess right now there are 11 hanks of it that are out in the world being knit up in people's stash, and another batch of it that will be out in the mail today. So that just got me really jazzed and got my creative juices flowing. So I took the advice of my friend Nelia Pulaski, and I'm going to open an Etsy shop. You can buy yarn from me right now. You can buy it just by reaching out to me and saying, hey, I want this in this colorway. Right now I just have fingering weights, but I'm going to add a little bit as we move on. So right now I'm focusing mostly on this merino cashmere nylon super, not super twist, high twist yarn. And I've got it in 4 colorways. The red bud colorway, which I will put a picture of on the Instagram or on Etsy, and just make it as it's ordered. And then I've got 3 more colorways. This one is called Ironweed. I don't know if you're familiar with ironweed, but it's a really lovely wildflower that grows. And my aunts really love to tell me stories about my father, who died when I was a baby. And one of the stories that they tell is about my dad and all of his cousins, and they would go out in the cattle fields, and it was considered a good thing, like a happy thing, if you had ironweed growing in your fields, just because it's so beautiful, just sentimentally. But it was actually really a chore because it grows so tall that it shades out the rest of the grass, and the cows don't eat it. So you had to scythe it down. Now, of course, nobody uses a scythe anymore. But my father and all of his cousins would go up and down the road with all of their farmland that they had cattle on, and scythe down the ironweed. So this is a colorway that I kind of made that makes me think of that happy story. It's got burgundy, amethyst, it's got some pretty fun pops of purple in there, and then it's got this lovely emerald green in it. These hanks are about 400 yards, by the way. The second color was actually my test batch. When I was dyeing the red bud yarn, I got a container of delphinium blue from Dharma Trading Company, and I mixed it up and put it in there, and I thought, this can't be right, this is pink. And then I thought, well, you know, with it's acid dye, and there are a lot of acid basic changes that happen with blues and pinks. Just think about hydrangeas, right? If your soil is acidic, they're one color. If your soil is basic, they're another color. So I thought, well, maybe this is what's going on here, and when I've rinsed it, it'll all be blue magically or something. No, it was not. Someone had sent me ballerina pink, which is the number that's right beside delphinium blue in the catalog. So I ended up dyeing this batch of yarn as my test, and it ended up very pink where parts of it should have been blue. And so I hemmed and hawed and hemmed and hawed, and then I went back over again and put the burgundy in, and ended up really falling in love with this colorway. It is called Sweet Peas on the Gate because it reminds me it's all of those colors that are in a bunch of sweet peas on a wrought iron gate. I just thought that was lovely. It's got some flecks of black in there. It's got some really fun pops of pink. So that is Sweet Peas on the Garden Gate. And then my last new color is kind of a dude color. I wanted a more masculine color that wasn't just all some shade of pink and purple. And this is Bottle Tree. It's got that emerald green in it, more saturated in some places and less saturated in others. And cobalt blue, like bottles on a bottle tree in your garden. Anyhow, so these guys are going to be going up on Etsy. You can buy them in the full 100 gram skein, or you can buy them as mini skeins. I'm going to have some 10 gram skeins on there, so they'll be about 40 yards if you just want to buy them for your sock blankets and whatnot. I just did, on the note of the sock blanket, I was in Williamsburg, and there was a group of historical interpreters who were just on the grounds, kind of had set up camp, and they were just doing their thing, living life like they would have in the late 1700s. And there was a fascinating woman there who was knitting, and she was dyeing her knitting with walnut shells. And so I just plopped down right down on the ground and had a great chat with her. And it was fascinating for me to learn that in colonial days, you knit everything undyed, and then when you were finished with it, you would dye the garment. And they did that because they couldn't afford to have brown scraps and blue scraps and that sort of thing. So they would just knit everything across the board in their worsted weight wool, and then they would knit. Then they would dye a blue sweater and a brown pair of gloves and so on and so forth, so that they never had scraps left over. And so I told her about the scrappy sock blankets that are so popular right now, and the Cozy Memories blankets, I suppose. And she said that that would have been the ultimate luxury in colonial days, to have a blanket that was a patchwork of so many different colors, because you had the money to buy yarn that was pre-dyed. So I just thought that was so fascinating. So as you knit on your Cozy Memories blankets or whatever scrap project you've got going on, think about that. Keep that in mind, how blessed we are that we can go out and say, I'm going to buy blue yarn today and I'm going to knit with it, and it doesn't matter what I have left over. So I just thought that that was very neat. I think I do want to share, I have some non-yarn knitty acquisitions that I did want to share with you before I move on to a little bit to talk about collaborations. I got some stitch markers, and it always makes me so amazed how happy these little things make me. It is insane. So on my elder tree shawl, I have the birdhouse that Wilhelmina sent to me in the mail, just as a little treat. In my swap package, she sent me this birdhouse. So to go along with it, because I've loved it so much, I bought from her Etsy shop, go there and buy things, this little garden spade. Can you see that? And this little Dutch clock. Isn't that sweet? So they have been accessorizing my knitting, even though I don't need them in that pattern. I just love to look at them. Also, I got this as a gift from Nelia Pulaski. And I'm sorry, Nelia, if you didn't have a Russian name, I wouldn't have to think about it so much every time I say it. But it's beautiful. Your name is beautiful. So it's just so fun how people get to know me over time. And, you know, you would think the way I think of myself versus the way other people think of myself or think of me is so interesting. And it's neat. It's neat to think of the ways that things remind other people of me. And so, you know, if I were talking to myself about someone, I would probably bring up the fact that I love to bake or I love to knit. And you know, I grew up on a farm, all of these different things, but my husband and I really love to bird. And that is not novel to me. That is so ingrained. Knowing the birds and looking for the birds is so ingrained in me that I don't even think of it as an interesting fact about myself anymore. But it's neat when people think about it and associate me with the birds because I really, really do love them. Anyhow, let's move on to chat about some collaborations that I've got coming up in the future. And then lastly, we'll talk about books. So, two fun things that I've got going on, collaborating with other folks. Nelia Pulaski is having a fun summer knit-along / competition that I can't share all the details about right now. She has not finalized all the details, but I can tell you it's going to be a lot of fun. It is in collaboration with Socks Therapist. I am going to be giving away this very hank of iron weed yarn as a prize for that knit along. And it's going to be socks based. So get your ideas flowing for socks that you want to knit over the summer. Follow Nelia on Instagram. Follow Socks Therapist on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram if you're not already. And look forward to fun socky things that are coming down the pike from her. Also, my second collaboration is just a fun project that came out of the ether with Lisa, who blogs at Happy in Dole Valley, and she is Dole Valley Girl on Instagram. And she designs very feminine, lovely knitwear patterns, and she has an Etsy shop for them. And I am working with some yarn right now, dyeing some yarn that is a 2-ply fingering weight yarn where one of the plies is alpaca and one of the plies is merino. The alpaca has a little bit of gray in it, and the alpaca and the merino have different shrinkage rates when they are dyed in the heat. And so the finished product of the yarn has a really interesting texture to it that is going to make a beautiful shawl. So Lisa is designing a pattern special to go with this yarn, and so you should follow her on Instagram and stay tuned to this project, which we will roll out in the late spring, early summer, maybe midsummer. It all just depends, because knitting is a hobby and it's supposed to be fun, right? So we're going to roll out that project in the months to come, and we're going to be doing some test knits. So stay tuned to that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Last but not least, let's talk quickly about some books. I got this book as a used book on Amazon for maybe $2. Not bad at all. I mentioned in the last podcast that I want to learn how to knit 2 socks at one time. The Magic Loop. I've tried Magic Loop before and I was not really jazzed with it. So I'm going to try 2 socks on 2 circular needles. This is Kat Bordy's book, Socks Soar on 2 Circular Needles. You'd never guess what it's about. She's got, even if you know how to knit 2 socks at a time, or you don't care one bit about knitting 2 socks at a time, this book has really beautiful patterns in it. And so if you can find it for $2 on the internet, you see, look at these charts. I highly recommend you get it because they're very pretty. Now, I will say that I got a giggle out of it because, you know, the whole thing is sock sore on 2 circular needles, but some of the patterns she uses pretty bulky yarn for sock weight yarn. Or I mean for sock yarn, not sock weight at all. Some of the patterns use DK yarn, some of the patterns use 6-ply, and I'm kind of thinking, yeah, this is 220 yards of bulky wool. Lopey works well. It's excellent. Some felted indoor Lopey slipper boots. Well, I'm like, yeah, no kidding. Any sock is gonna soar with bulky yarn, much less on circular needles. So anyhow, I've not actually acquired the 2 circular needles that I need because those are things that you buy in the big city or on the internet. They're not things that you buy in Farmville, Virginia. To try this book out, so that is waiting in the wings for when I have the right needles. Also, Knitting Knee Highs by Barb Brown is a book that I got on my Kindle through the Kindle Lending Library. So you can just check it out. It shows up on your Kindle. It goes away when you've exhausted the time period that they want to give it to you for. And then next time you need it, you just check it out again. So I really love the idea of knitting knee-high socks because I wear, in the winter, I wear my snow boots a lot. And I need socks that come up high enough so that the inside, the tag, doesn't rub my shin when I'm out and about and walking and trekking. So I want for winter to get a pair or 2 of knee-high socks knitted up. So in the book Knitting Knee Highs, she talks about how you can modify your existing favorite pattern. She has original patterns too. She talks about the formula that's required to modify your existing favorite patterns to get the circumference right that you need for a knee-high sock. And how and where. I'm sorry, I've got a little tickle. You know how you get a little, feel like you have a spider web on your face or something. To make knee-high socks that fit you where they're supposed to fit you, because of course your calf is a different size than your heel, ankle, or should be, really. So those are 2 neat knitting books that I've been paging through. This is a book that I got Julian for his birthday. It's called Following the Wild Bees. It is a very scientific approach to finding bees in the wild, whether to capture them and bring them home, to set up a swarm box. But as you may know, that Julian and I are getting honeybees this spring, and we're all set up. We've done our beginning beekeeper class. We're just waiting to get the bees from our neighbors because we opted, instead of buying a package from down south, we've opted to go with local bees. So we are waiting for our local beekeepers to be able to produce hives that are big enough for us to start with. In the meantime, we're reading this book together, The Craft and Science of Bee Hunting, and it's by a professor. It's published by the Princeton University Press. I'm a huge fan of university presses. I spent a long time fundraising for University Press, the WVU University Press, and I tell you, they are fascinating operations, because university presses can publish books on topics that commercial presses wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. Check them out. Google them. Google the Princeton University Press. Thomas Seeley is his name. Thomas Seeley, and he goes into extreme depth on how to find your native honeybees. Well, not native, your local honeybees, because honeybees of the normal varieties that we are accustomed to are not native to North America. So that is a cool book. 2 other books I've been reading. Lila by Marilyn Robinson is messing with my head. We will talk about it when I'm done. I know a couple of other folks in my circle are reading Gilead. Read Lila when you're done with Gilead and let me know what you have to say about it. And then I am reading a book called The Other Daughter. I can't remember the name of the author. I don't have it in my notes. It is okay, but I'm going to hold out and finish reading it before I give you much more information. It's just basically about a woman who is living, she's gone back and forth from England to France. She was a nanny in France. She got fired when she went home to see her mother on her mother's deathbed. She didn't make it home. She realized that her father, who she always thought was dead, is really alive and well, and an earl, very wealthy earl with another family. And so I'm just getting to the point where the book starts to really unfold. So I've liked it so far. I just am not far enough to make a sound judgment on it. So I have talked and talked and talked, and I don't think I've talked this much in days. I hope that I've said something that you liked to listen to. I hope that you'll come and join my Ravelry group so we can talk more about all of these things. I hope that you are a little bit inspired, that you share your works in progress with me, and would love to hear anything that you want to say. So hit me up on Instagram, Ravelry, or the blog, or YouTube. And all of those links that you need to know will be in the description. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a great night. I know a lot of you watch this when the kids are in bed, and so I hope it's been a great time for you to relax and get some knitting done and recharge your batteries. So anyhow, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.